bloc vote at the time. That took a whole generation to get back to anything approaching a stronger left again. And this was after a time when somebody told me the other day Neil Kinnock voted 88 times against the Labour government in the late 70s. Now, can you imagine, losing the whip and all the things that people, the things that Emma's talked about now? It's very, very different. So I don't see that there is an option for the left really rebuilding within a generation. I'm not saying it's impossible, but within a generation, I don't see it. I don't see it really happening. And worse than that, you've got the Socialist Campaign Group, and again, I don't want to be personal, but I think the decision over Stop the War was a catastrophic decision, not just for Stop the War, but for the whole of the left, because it's weakened the left in a very, very fundamental way. And that the point you make is very good. That and John McDonnell deliberately made the decision to completely break and Stop the War, not to have some sort of can we just do this or can we just do that. So that has weakened, and I think has weakened the Labour left over the domestic issues, not just over, and it did over BDS. I mean, all right, 10 or 11 voted, but I don't think, did any of the Labour MPs in Liverpool who go on about Palestine all the time? I think all of them abstained, with maybe one exception. Mick.
But he's already deselected.
He's been deselected, that's right. Mick Whitney, who managed to vote against it because he hasn't got a hope of getting elected next time. So, so this is the situation you've got. At the same time, we've got a situation where there's a huge hangover from Corbynism, which we're still all living through, and it's still a real problem, I think, for the left. I think it's made the left much, much more fragmented. I mean, there's other reasons. I'm not blaming it all on the defeat of Corbynism, but there's, the truth is we've got a very fragmented left, but at the same time, lots and lots of people who want to fight, and we've seen this with the strikes, which, we're now reaching a kind of turning point with some of them, but leaving that aside, there's still a huge amount of fight in people that they want to do. People are very, very angry about a whole range of issues. The ticket closure thing, which I was at tonight, and the stuff about education, the NHS, all of these things. The problem is, I think we then have to talk about what we want to build, because we can talk about a united front where you have people inside the Labour Party and outside the Labour Party. In a way, the Labour left particularly has sort of scuppered the united fronts or made them much weaker. Obviously Stop the War, but as I say, even over domestic issues it's much harder to do. But also I think we do need to confront the question of where change happens. Now, people say to me, I go to Parliament very, very rarely. In fact, I always get a sickening feeling in my stomach every time. I really find it a very physically unpleasant place to be in. I'm sure other comrades here feel kind of some of the same sort of thing. But everyone tells me there's nothing going on in Parliament at the moment. These people are taking huge salaries and expenses. They're all in the gym. They're all doing it. There's no laws being passed most of the time. There's nothing happening because the government at the top is absolutely paralysed. The Tories are bitterly at each other's throats, don't know what to do, and Labour has got no real alternative to it. But even Parliament is good times. That's not where change really comes from. Change really comes when people say, "Okay, we want to get the vote for women," or we want to repeal anti-trade union law, as people did in the early 1970s, or whatever the issues are. That's where the change really comes from, and I think that. We do need to take this on board. I don't think we can keep sort of reinventing the wheel of a more left Labour Party, or even when people talk about new parties. If they're simply about electoralism, we will get exactly the same problems that we've had over the decades. So I think we've got to think a lot about that. I think we ought to look internationally at some of the problems there, because people had great hopes about Greece with Syriza, but that has just suffered a big parliamentary defeat, and Tsipras has resigned. In Spain, Podemos similarly, and people are very worried about the rise of fascism in Spain and so on, for very, very good reasons. So I think we've got to think, when we talk about a left party, what do we mean? And I'll just sort of conclude, because I must have been talking for 1 minute. So I just want to say we've got to, Marxism is a much, much smaller force in Britain than it was when I first became a socialist, for better or worse. I mean, there were 30,000 people in the Communist Party, and whatever you thought of the Communist Party, that was a big group of people who had some understanding of the way in which society works and the way in which the state works. That's much more fragmented now, but the truth is that the idea of organisation based on self-activity of workers and based on the power that we actually have to change it, has to be a central component of what we do and what we talk about. And it isn't an easy argument because of all the history and all the problems and the defeats. We have suffered defeats, both inside and outside the Labour Party in recent years. So those are the kind of things. But I do think we've got to move away from just seeing this as a kind of, you know, as the kind of, well, either Labour is, you know, the left is doing well in Labour, or it's doing much worse. I think we've got to look at, there has to be an alternative which is built on the basis of these struggles and not on the basis of people thinking that one person getting elected somewhere is really going to make a fundamental difference. So anyway, I'll end there.
Okay, we're going to open it up now for I hope, comradely debate, lots of different views, of course. And it'd be great to hear from as many people as possible. To begin with, I'm going to allow people 3 minutes, and then I'll start interrupting. If, like, as I said before, I may truncate that to less if loads and loads and loads of people still want to speak.